I still remember the night everything fell apart. It was raining, not the soft kind that feels poetic or cleansing, but the kind that beats against your window like the world is angry at you. I sat in my car, engine off, staring at the glow of the city lights through streaks of water on the windshield. My phone was silent. It hadn't rung in days. I didn't even bother checking messages anymore because there weren't any left to read. Everyone who used to call me had stopped. My name doesn't really matter now. What matters is the person I used to be, the man who thought he had everything figured out. A good job, a circle of friends, a girlfriend I thought would be my future. Then, in what felt like one single breath, it all disappeared. Maybe that's the cruelest part about life. How quietly it can take things from you before you even notice they're gone. Started at work. I made a mistake, one that cost the company money and my boss his trust in me. I tried to explain, to fix it, to take responsibility, but gossip spreads faster than the truth ever could. Within a week, people were whispering about me, avoiding my desk, treating me like a virus they didn't want to catch. The next week I was fired. You think the worst part of losing your job is the loss of money. But it's not. It's the loss of identity. I wasn't Daniel, the reliable guy from finance anymore. I was just Daniel, the screw-up. When I told my girlfriend, she tried to comfort me at first. She said, "We'll get through this." But after a few weeks of my silent dinners and sleepless nights, her patience started to wear thin. I could see it in her eyes, the quiet calculation of whether staying with me was worth it. Eventually it wasn't. She left one morning, her half of the closet empty, her note short and clean. I can't do this anymore. My friends faded next. The ones who used to call me for drinks or talk about weekend plans. One by one they stopped answering my messages. Maybe they didn't know what to say. Maybe my bad luck felt contagious. Either way, I found myself alone in a small apartment that used to feel warm but now echoed with silence. I started spending hours walking through the city at night, just to escape the noise inside my head. It was on one of those nights that I met her. She was sitting outside a small coffee shop that stayed open late, wrapped in a gray scarf, reading a book under the yellow streetlight. I don't know what made me stop. Maybe it was because she looked peaceful, something I hadn't felt in a long time. "Cold night for reading outside," I said, mostly to make myself feel human again. She looked up and smiled. "Only if you're thinking about the cold." I remember that smile. It wasn't the polite kind people give out of obligation. It was calm, warm, like she wasn't afraid of the world around her. I didn't know it yet, but that single conversation would change everything. Her name was Hannah. She worked part-time at the coffee shop, studied art, and lived a few blocks away. Somehow we ended up talking for almost an hour. She didn't ask what I did for a living or why I looked tired. She just talked. About the book she was reading, about her dreams of traveling, about how she liked watching people pass by because everyone had their own invisible story. When I left that night, I didn't realize how much I needed that conversation. Someone talking to me without judgment. Someone who didn't know my past or care about it. The next night, I walked by the same cafe again, and she was there, same table, same book. "Back again," she teased. "Maybe I was hoping for another philosophical lecture," I said. She laughed softly. "Then sit down." That became our routine. We'd talk for hours about everything and nothing. She never pried, never asked why I was always wandering around at night. But somehow she always seemed to know that I needed someone to talk to. One evening, after about 2 weeks of these nightly talks, she asked quietly, "So what are you running from?" I froze. No one had asked me that before. Not even my ex. I looked at her and said, "Myself, I guess." She nodded, not with pity but with understanding. "That's a hard person to outrun." I laughed, but it was the kind of laugh that hides a sob. And for the first time I told someone everything. The mistake at work, the humiliation, the breakup, the loneliness. I expected her to pull away, to look at me the way everyone else had, with that silent mix of disappointment and discomfort. But she didn't. Instead, she said, "You know what I think? I think sometimes we're supposed to lose everything we thought we needed so we can finally see what actually matters." Her words hit me harder than I expected. Maybe because I wanted to believe them. Over the next months, Hannah became my closest friend. She'd check on me, invite me to join her for walks, sometimes drag me to a gallery or a street performance she liked. Slowly, without realizing, she was pulling me back into life. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. She encouraged it, even bought me a small sketchbook. Not to make something perfect, she said. Just to remind yourself you can create again. I'd sit at my tiny kitchen table sketching quietly, and for the first time in a long time my mind wasn't drowning in shame. I was just being. But healing isn't a straight line. There were days I wake up and feel that old heaviness pressing on my chest again. Days when I couldn't believe I'd ever crawl out of that hole. One night, I almost didn't go to see her at the cafe. I sat staring at my phone, thinking she'd probably be better off without my miserable company. Then she texted, "Where are you, artist?" I smiled despite myself. I went. When I got there, she looked at me and said, "You look like someone who's been fighting ghosts all day." I sighed. "Yeah, and I think they're winning." She reached across the table, touched my hand gently and said, "Then it's time you stop fighting them and start forgiving them." Those words changed something inside me. Forgive the ghosts. Forgive myself. I didn't know how, but I wanted to try. Over time, I found a new job. Not as high-paying or prestigious, but enough to get by. I started rebuilding piece by piece. My old friends never came back, but I didn't mind anymore. I was meeting new people, people who knew me as I was now, not who I used to be. Hannah and I stayed close. We never called it love, but maybe it was something deeper, quieter than romance. She had a way of seeing beauty in the broken, and I think she saw something worth saving in me. One day, she told me she'd been offered a scholarship abroad in Italy. She was nervous about going. "It feels selfish," she said. "You've just started finding your balance again." I shook my head. "You helped me stand up. Now you have to go run." She smiled, eyes glistening. "You're sure?" "I'm sure," I said. "Besides, you taught me how to keep walking." That was the last night we sat together at that cafe. We talked for hours, pretending we weren't saying goodbye. After she left, the city felt emptier, but not in the same painful way it used to. More like the quiet after a storm, the kind that lets you breathe again. Months passed. I focused on work, painting, and even started volunteering at a local community center. I found myself drawn to people who felt lost, people like I once was. Sometimes I'd sit with them and just listen the way she did for me. It's strange, but in helping others, I found myself healing even more. Sometimes late at night, I still walk by that old cafe. It's been renovated now, brighter and busier. But every time I see that corner table under the streetlight, I swear I can almost see her sitting there, scarf around her neck, lost in a book. I used to think people came into our lives for reasons we could understand, that there had to be logic behind every meeting, every connection. But with Hannah, I realized something else. Some people show up not to stay forever, but to remind you of who you are before they go. A year had passed since she left for Italy. We still exchanged messages sometimes. Short updates, photos of her sketches, videos of the streets she loved to walk down. She always signed them with the same words. "Keep creating, artist." And I always did. Life somehow had started to bloom again. Not in some miraculous cinematic way, but in small, quiet steps. I'd wake up earlier. I'd paint in the morning light that spilled across my kitchen. I'd make coffee and actually taste it, not just gulp it down to survive the day. And sometimes, while I painted, I'd think of her words, the way she believed in me before I did. One evening, I was working on a piece I couldn't quite get right. The colors clashed, the lines felt wrong. I grew frustrated, almost ready to toss the whole thing out, when a thought hit me. Hannah would tell me to stop trying to fix it and start listening to what it wanted to become. So I did. I let go of control. I let my hands move freely. The painting that emerged wasn't perfect. It was raw, messy, emotional, but it felt real. And in that moment, I realized something. That's exactly what healing is. It's messy, imperfect, and never quite finished. But it's real. A few weeks later, I was invited to display my paintings in a small local gallery. It wasn't anything grand, just a community event, but it felt monumental to me. Standing there, watching people stop and actually see something I made, something born from pain but transformed into beauty, I felt alive again. There was a woman who stopped at one of my pieces, a portrait inspired by Hannah. It wasn't her face exactly, more like the essence of her presence. Calm eyes, soft light, that invisible warmth she carried. The woman looked at it for a long time, then said quietly, "There's a lot of peace in this one." I smiled. "Yeah," I said. "There is." Later that night, I walked home alone, the city lights reflecting off the wet pavement. But it didn't feel like loneliness anymore, it felt like solitude. The kind that doesn't hurt. The kind that lets you breathe and think and dream again. As I crossed the street, I caught my reflection in a shop window. For a moment, I barely recognized myself. My shoulders were straight. My eyes weren't hollow anymore. I looked whole. That's when I understood what Hannah had really done for me. She hadn't saved me. She'd shown me how to save myself. She'd reminded me that my worth wasn't tied to success or approval, or the people who abandoned me. It was tied to something quieter, deeper, the simple act of getting back up. And once you realize that, you stop waiting for people to come back. You stop looking for validation. You start building your life from within. One afternoon, I got a letter in the mail. A real letter, not an email. The handwriting was unmistakable. "Dear artist," it began. "I walked into a small gallery in Florence today. There was a painting there that reminded me of you. It wasn't yours, of course, but it had the same kind of hope. I thought about how far you've come. I thought about that first night in the cold when you said you were running from yourself. I hope you've stopped running. I hope you've found home. H." I must have read that letter a dozen times. Not because I missed her, though I did, but because of what it represented. It was like a full circle closing. She'd gone on her journey, and I'd found mine. I didn't reply right away. I wanted to find the right words. Eventually, I sent her a short note back. "I stopped running. You were right. I found my way back. Thank you for seeing me when no one else did." That was the last time we wrote to each other. No big farewell. No promises. Just quiet understanding. Years later, I still carry her lessons with me. I became an art teacher at a community center, the same one I used to volunteer at. Every year I meet people who are lost, broken, or just tired. And every time I see a little bit of myself in them. Sometimes they tell me their stories about failures, heartbreaks, mistakes that won't stop echoing in their minds. And I listen the way Hannah once listened to me. Then I tell them something she told me once. "You're not ruined. You're just unfinished." That line always makes them pause. It made me pause too back then. Because it's true. None of us are finished. We're all in progress, always learning, breaking, rebuilding. On rainy nights, I still walk the same streets I used to wander when I was lost. But now I walk with a sense of peace. The rain doesn't feel angry anymore. It feels cleansing, like it's washing away the past that no longer owns me. Sometimes I stop by that cafe, the one where it all began. It's different now, remodeled and modern, but there's still a table by the window. I sit there, order a coffee, and watch people pass by. Some are smiling, some are rushing, some look like they're carrying invisible storms. And I think maybe that's how it always works. We all carry storms. We all break. But sometimes someone appears, even for a short while, and reminds us how to find the light again. I used to resent the people who turned their backs on me, the ones who left when I needed them most. But now I'm grateful, because if they hadn't walked away, I might never have learned what real connection looks like. I might never have met Hannah. I learned that the people who stay aren't always the loudest or the closest. Sometimes they're strangers who sit beside you in silence and see you. Not for your mistakes, but for your potential. And if you're lucky, you meet one of them at the exact moment you've forgotten how to believe in yourself. I don't know where Hannah is now. Maybe she's still painting in Italy, or maybe she's moved on to another country, another dream. But I like to think she's out there, sitting under another streetlight somewhere, smiling at a stranger who looks like he's about to give up, telling him softly, "It's going to be okay," because that's who she was. And that's what she did. And now when I meet someone who's lost, I do the same. I sit with them, listen, and remind them that their story isn't over yet. Sometimes all it takes is one person to change the entire course of your life. Not by rescuing you, but by reminding you that you still have the strength to rescue yourself. Hannah did that for me. She saw light where I only saw darkness. And because of her, I learned that no matter how broken you feel, there's always a way back to yourself. So if you're listening to this and you feel like everyone has turned their back on you, remember this. You are not alone. You're not finished. You're just beginning again. Thank you for staying with me until the end of my story. If something in these words touched you, if you've ever felt lost, broken, or forgotten, I want you to know you're not alone. We all have moments when life feels too heavy, but sometimes Hearing someone else's story can remind us that healing is possible. So if you'd like to hear more stories like this one, stories about love, redemption, and second chances, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Join our family, share your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep finding light together, one story at a time.